Hey peeps, and welcome back. Today is my last episode of this episode of Eric Hovind, and boy, do they ever have a stupid filled episode for you. So get on your facepalm gear. At any rate, if you spend any time listening to these yuckers, and believe me, there's better things I could do with my time. But anyway, Eric is the son of Kent Hovind. Kent Hovind, yes, that Kent Hovind, the one who swears he isn't a fraud, but spent 10 to 15 years in prison because he defrauded the IRS, and then he went back to jail for beating his wife. Yeah, charming, huh? Anyway, I'm going to take it a bit easier on Eric because, really, this guy never really had a chance, although he should have learned by now, you know? But, yeah, he went to Pensacola Christian Academy for his entire life. Other than that, he has no other credentials, if you can call that a credential. Anyway, he did try going to Jackson Hole Bible College, which isn't even a real college, but that's neither here nor there, and he couldn't even do that. So I don't want to air the Hovind dirty laundry, but it ties into who he is. When Kent went to prison to serve out his sentence for dodging the IRS, he put his Creationist ministry in Eric's name, and Eric never gave it back. Well, you know what, Kent? Karma's a bitch, ain't she? Maybe if he'd been nicer to the kid, he would have given you back your ministry, but you beat the living daylights out of that kid when he was younger. What did you think was going to happen, you loser? And while you're thinking about it, if you're new, why don't you go ahead and hit that subscribe button? And if you've already subscribed to me, make sure you're still subscribed because for some reason, YouTube loves to unsubscribe people. Also, if you're new here, I'd like to thank you very much for giving me a chance. And for my fans and subscribers, thank you so much for coming back. You are the lifeblood of this channel. And now, with that, let's get on with the video.
When somebody tells me, you're wrong, these layers are millions of years old, does it help for somebody to understand they came up with the ages long before radiometric dating was even thought of or possible?
Right. In some ways, yes.
Okay.
They already were talking that right away about the end of the 18th century when James.
Tim, will you quit flat out lying? How can you sit there and say you believe in a God who tells you to be honest when you're just sitting there lying to people? And yeah, you're a geologist, so you know you're lying. You see my lips? Good. Because I not only want you to hear me, I want you to read my lips. Okay? You know that is a flat out lie. They did not decide the age before dating. As per usual, it's up to me to tell you guys the truth. I know most of you already know the truth. This guy's lying, okay? Now, what happened was that relative dating came along before absolute dating did. And if you think about it for 2 seconds, this makes sense because anybody with half a brain can figure out that, barring some catastrophe, older rock is going to be underneath younger rock. These exceptions are called unconformities, and I've already covered them in another video, so I'm not going to recover them here. And again, please be advised, I am not a geologist. If you want more information on this, go to a geology channel. Using only relative dating, early geologists found out that the Earth was in the hundreds of thousands of years old, and not just in the thousands of years. Later on, when absolute dating was invented, we found that the Earth was hundreds of millions of years old, and we have been tweaking that number ever since, and now it stands at about 4.54 billion years old. And it's funny, but these people do not tell you that we have more than one way to absolutely date the rocks. And guess what? They all tend to agree with each other. Now, I wonder why that might be. That's a hard one. Most of my viewers will know what I'm talking about, but if you don't, let me spell it out for you. If, as these young earthers claim, radioactivity sped up sometime in the past, then those dates should be all over the place, but they're not.
2,000 years as humans, we can imagine maybe 100,000, but you jump that next order of magnitude to millions, and there's no hope.
Wow.
It's like you're playing with monopoly money. So they throw these millions of years around because they needed those millions and billions of years for any chance of their evolutionary story to be true. They have to kind of hide it behind this cloak of deep time.
You know, I'm really getting tired of correcting your lies, Tim. And you know you're lying. James Hutton was born in 1726. That's a full century before Darwin was born. For those of you who don't know, James Hutton was a Scottish geologist and chemist, and he is considered the father of modern geology. And he's the one that proposed that the Earth was older than thousands of years. So, what I want you to answer is this. Why would a man that was born at least 100 years before the theory of evolution ever became a thing would try to quote unquote justify something that had not been thought of yet and would not be thought of for many years to come? That doesn't make any sense, and you know that. So get off your high horse. And yet again, I find myself having to correct you. We don't need billions of years for evolution to be true. Geology and biology have nothing to do with each other, except that life can be found on our planet. And by the way, for the most part of Earth's history, life was unicellular or simple multicellularity until the Cambrian explosion happened roughly 500 million years ago. And considering the Earth is 4.54 billion years old, that is a lot of time. So, I want you to answer that one.
Together, along with evolution, I think it's basically satanic. It's the whole idea is this mystery where you got to have deep time, you got to have this evolutionary story. You can't have evolution without a lot of time because we don't see evolution happening today.
That's a good point.
We see things changing, but we don't see really anything evolving, and we really never have. We have
Look, I'm not religious anymore, so I don't believe in anything being quote unquote satanic. But let's just say I did think there was something satanic out there in the ether. What the fuck is any scientific theory being satanic? As I said time and time before, I'm getting a little tired of repeating it. Deep time, the concept came about at least a century before the theory of evolution. How many times do I have to say that? Listen, we see things changing, not evolving. Do you think that's a clever wordplay? They mean the same damn thing, you idiot. At any rate, how can you explain a bacteria not being able to metabolize citrate, evolving, or to simplify it, take your term, changing, into bacteria that can metabolize citrate? And yes, we have seen that happening with our own eyes. So, what was that about we can't see evolution? And keep in mind what I said at the beginning of this. He is a supposed geologist. So if he talks about anything other than geology, he has about as much weight as my mailman does.
We have the rock record with fossils in them, but the fossils show up suddenly, fully formed, and then you get more fossils, maybe different fossils, suddenly fully formed. You see some stasis, they stay the same for a while, then they disappear. And that goes back to what we're talking about today, the progressive flow.
First, let me address the fossils issue. Have you not heard of the Cambrian explosion, which happened 500 million years ago, or the relatively recent event of the 65 million year old asteroid hit? You know, the one that killed off the dinosaurs? And while I'm thinking about it, why don't we ever find, like mammals together with trilobites? Because if creationism is true, we should. That would prove creationism and disprove evolution. Yet, we never find that. As for your half-baked argument about half-formed, this is an argument that creationists love to use along with the fossil argument. What else would they be? Half-formed? Okay, Timmy, let me use your exact words so I cannot be accused of strawmanning you. You said stasis for a while and then disappear. Yeah, that's exactly what you should find under the theory of evolution. Know what you can't find? Because you seem to have left that out. Wonder why. You cannot find only one instance of this happening, which would be true if the flood ever happened. It happens over and over and over again.
How many thousands of feet, we use meters because we're scientists, we try to confuse people, but how many meters of limestone, sandstone, shale, or whatever's there, we put whatever is there, physically what's there today. Now I realize there's been a lot of erosion, sometimes even between the layers as waves of the flood came in and went back, you're going to erode some things, but what's still there today, to me, still tells that compelling story that there was this global flood.
Tim, I thought you were smarter than this, but I guess that's what I get for giving young earthers the benefit of the doubt, huh? You ought to know better than to use presupposition in your argument. Now, I know there's a word for a reasoning that starts with what you want to be your conclusion, and then you go looking for the evidence to support that conclusion. But for the life of me, I can't think of what it might be. Just give me a moment or two and I might be able to think about it. Now, you just said you realize there's been a lot of erosion. But then you turn right around and say it's because of the flood washing up and whatnot. Just think about how dumb that statement is. You're supposed to be a geologist, Tim, and as a geologist, you should know this. Erosion takes a lot of time. Have you ever been to the ocean? During the time when waves come and go, is there erosion? Of course there isn't. But that is exactly what you are proposing here, except without the wave action. Okay? You're either dumb or you're flat out lying. Which is it? Well, folks, I hope you're impressed as much as I am about this so far rock solid evidence for the flood, which, by the way, is no evidence at all for the flood, and about this, different continents shit. We'll get into that later. For right now, let's suffice it to say that there is no evidence for a worldwide flood because it never happened. And to say that you would be surprised that there's evidence all around the world for local floods is just disingenuous. Because, as you probably know, I hope you know, local floods happen all the goddamn time, even in places where there is no river anymore because there are dry riverbeds around those places. So far, the only evidence that Eric Hovind and Dr. Who the Fuck Ever has is disinformation and disingenuity. I mean, really, if you have to be this dishonest to sell your life, maybe you shouldn't do it. And I really do hope that this allows someone to take the blinders off, to give themselves permission to wonder about whether the Bible really is true in all its declarations, because the Bible was not meant to be a science book. It was not meant to be a history book. It was meant to be a theology book. And just because it has some things that really happened doesn't mean everything happened.